Okay, guys, this was a hand posted by a Carrot Poker Discord member last Friday. Over the weekend, I mulled it over in my subconscious. I digested it like some kind of horrible moldy pancake. And by the Monday, I was sick of thinking about it in my subconscious and I had reached a verdict. And that verdict was that this hand is not as absurd to think about as I originally thought. The first player to respond to this hand last week said, "Am I going crazy, or is even considering folding this ludicrous? This feels like the biggest case of being results oriented. I'm definitely not shocked to see slow plays in this line, but there are so many hands we beat with mixes of value, merges, and just straight up implosions at 25 NL that I couldn't even fathom folding this without extreme player specific reads." Edited. Wow. Strong words from the Carrot Poker Discord member. This was a hand I mulled over in my head all weekend. I read this hand on Friday for the first time and I thought, this is a really absurd hand. I can't believe that the original poster can even be deliberating folding here, let alone calling this a punt. But ladies and gentlemen, by the Monday, I was fully on board that this was at least a legitimate question. Did I decide to fold here? Did I say that folding was right? You'll have to watch the hand to find out. But let me just show you what happened, right? The poker player here called at 20 NL on the button with sixes against cutoff. It went three-way. The flop checked through. What an exciting hand. On the turn, the cutoff led for small, and we decided to call. On the river, they bet big, we raised, and they went all in. Would you fold sixes full of fives here? Of course you wouldn't. Would you think I was crazy for even considering that this might be worth talking about? Yes. Are you sitting there right now thinking, what an absolute joke. I can't believe this carrot guy is even entertaining this hand. But let me try and assure you that this hand is not quite as absurd as you may think. Just bear with me. I promise it's going to start making some sense. Right. So, first off, 3-bet this node. If you're playing 20 NL or any stake really, just 3-bet this node. There are a couple of reasons for this. The first one is that you do a hell of a lot better in the 3-bet node button versus cutoff than you do in the call node. So even though the solver will say that this is 0 EV either way, as in there's no EV difference between calling and 3-betting, and it will mix both options, 3-bet will be at a very tiny frequency, because it's playing mostly 3-bet or fold here. You should definitely 3-bet, because in the human versus human landscape, the in-position 3-better, we know from mass data, just really outperforms what the GTO sims say they should, because this is a much easier spot for the button to navigate than for the cutoff. We go three-way here, as you saw. On the flop, we decide to check. I think this is reasonable. On the turn, we decide to call 1/3. I don't think this is like unreasonable. We're getting 1,000,000 to 1. And then villain goes for a big river bet, which we duly raise. We raise really small here, so the second leak, like the first thing I would fix about this hand is I would 3-bet pre. The second thing I would fix about this hand is I would raise the river bigger. Like, look what you've actually done here. Look what you've done! If you called 940, the pot would become about 30 big blinds, right? And you have made it another 17 big blinds to villain into a pot that became 30. So you've made it basically just over half pot. You've got the nuts in the river and you've basically made it, you've clicked it back for like a half pot raise. This is clearly not okay. We need to go bigger. This is a huge punt. The huge punt in this hand is the river sizing, truth be told. Villain jams, and now the original poster actually says here, punt at 20 NL, river, pretty easy value raise when villain bets. When villain shoves, my instinct was snap fold. Ridiculously underbluff spot, but then I talked myself into the idea that I had a value beater, meaning a hand that doesn't beat bluffs only, but beats value as well. He then goes on to say, looking back, I don't think villain 3-bet shoves with threes, ace-5 suited, any 5x or ace-x, even worse. Looking back, ace-5 suited is only one comp. What? What are you saying? Okay, he's starting to rule out, like, he's saying ace-5 suited is only one combo, which is ace-5 of spades. 5-6 suited can't exist, as I have the 6 of clubs. Yep, agreed. I think this is an absolute punt. Okay, let's get one thing straight. This can't be an absolute punt, right? Surely. But let me talk to you guys about why I became a bit more sympathetic. Not to folding here. Ultimately, I ruled that this hand was a call. But let me show you why I entertained it. Right, I'm going to read a few of the things that I said in my hand channel here to the original poster and the hordes of trolls who were shouting at him from the rooftops that were saying, "You're a disgrace for considering folding here." They weren't really trolls, they're just like Discord members. But this is what I said to them. So I said, when I first looked at this hand, I immediately wanted to dismiss it as results orientation and ludicrous. But you know what? The more I thought about it, the more seriously I wanted to take fold, so I entertained it as open-mindedly and as possible and tried to do some totally unbiased analysis on the hand. Point 1. What is villain's range here? Point 1. Ace, ace, right? Pocket aces. I go on to say, by far the hand that will play this way the most often, compared to any other hand. It will slow play far more than the other boats, right? Because aces is just the boat that you check flop with if you're going to check the flop because you block all the calls. It's also the boat that you make us please call me, I block your whole calling range small turn bet with. And it is, of course, a boat that you don't overbet on river and then that you jam over a raise. So aces is extremely coherent for this line as far as value hands go. And I think that this is almost always a value hand for what it's worth at 20. And I do not think people are bluffing really. But most humans are bluffing 0% of the time in this spot, which is going to mean that like the amount of times you see bluffs is very few and far between, because first you have to run into someone that's capable of bluffing and then they still need to not have the value hand. I then go on to say, example, if 3 is 3 times less likely to reach the river in this way and then jam, then it will be 1 combo compared to the 3 combos of aces, right? So aces won't always play that way, but we're just going to take 3 combos of aces, just say that hypothetically that's how many there are, and we'll compare every other hand to that many combos, right? So if 3s is a third as likely to get here and play this way than aces is, and arguably it could even be less likely than that, then it would be 1 combo instead of 3 for pocket aces, if you see what I'm doing there. I then go on to say point 2, ace 5/3-3. These will shove river is played if they get here. I then go on to say the problem in my mind about these hands is that they will get here way less often than ace ace will. I think something like 3 times less often. If I had to guess, and then I say ace 5 is 6 base combos if we count the offsuit, but we should discount it a bit because ace 5 off doesn't always open in the cutoff. If we say it opens half the time, then that's around 3 base combos we're going to discount, or 2.5 we're going to discount. And so we end up with about 2.5 to 3 base combos. Divided by 3, we end up with like less than a combo of ace 5 and 3 of ace 5 here. And then 3s is obviously 3 combos. I think it's about a third as likely to get here and do this as aces is, so it's also like 1 combo. So far I'm giving villain like 1 combo of ace 5 and 1 combo of pocket 3s. Maybe you think that's optimistic, pessimistic, let me know your thoughts. 5x and other merges, right? Because obviously we beat trip 5s that's just absolutely spewing its guts out here and thinking it can jam the river. And you might think that that hand can jam the river. And I don't want to disagree too hard that like king 5, queen 5 couldn't consider it. I do think at 20 NL there will be some of that going on. And so in my analysis, I go on to say that if villain is a fish, then the number of combos of 5x jamming river could go up a lot, and it's the most volatile factor. Villain did make it 2.4x. He did third pot turn. His sizing, just general behavior seems quite reggy here, so I don't want to give him a huge frequency of being a fish, but it is possible, and I think it's very possible that there are sometimes some 5x like in villain's range here. There won't be loads of them because 5x suited isn't that many combos in cutoff, and because they're pretty damn unlikely to not bet the turn bigger and then to jam the river, but I think they are possible at some frequency. And then point 4 is bluffs. I go on to say the frequency that most players will choose to bluff at here is 0%. We never see a bluff versus almost all humans, and then we run into a few who are over bluffing because it's like once you turn the tap on here and the bluffs start, people are over bluffing, but the people who are capable of bluffing here are going to be extremely infrequent. So because most people have just never bluffed in this spot in their life, this is going to be a wildly underbluffed spot, even though there's hardly any value hands possible. That's basically me paraphrasing myself. So I go on to say that like after those estimates and calculations, aces is like 3 combos because I'm just putting it there pure for the sake of argument. Ace 5 is about a third as likely to play this way as aces, and is also about 3 base combos if you say it's opening pre half the time, so that's 1 combo. Pocket 3s is 1 combo, it was 3 base combos, divided by 3, it's about a third as likely to play this way as aces. 1 combo of merges, I was being pretty pessimistic there because I think almost all players won't jam a 5 here, but some of the really weak ones will. Had villain like 3x pre, had a short stack, I'd be just like calling this in a heartbeat because the combos of 5x go up significantly. And then I've gone on to say that there are 0.5 bluff combos because basically the amount of the time that you'll run into one of the humans that can bluff in this spot is microscopic. And so even if the few humans who are bluffing or over bluffing, it's still going to be microscopic that we run into a bluff. And I conclude by saying, therefore, I'm landing on call being right, but I do think the hand is far from absurd, and I don't think it's crazy to ask whether folding could make sense. I then go on to say, sometimes our minds play tricks on us when we know we're losing quite often to a very specific hand, like aces, and then we lose in the way we feared, and then it can feel like it was written into the stars and that we knew that it was going to happen. So I do have sympathy here for Hero when they lose to pocket aces, and I do think pocket aces is by far the most likely hand to play this way, meaning it's way more likely to take this line than any other hand, and maybe even more than all the other hands combined. But bear in mind, pot odds, we do only need about 33% or something to call off here, and to say that we win less than a third of the time here, I think is not right. But I do think we actually lose at least half the time in a spot like this, because it's just such a uniquely played hand, where it's just so unusual to see pocket threes or ace five slow play in this way. I do think ace five might on the turn because it thinks it, like, I don't know, blocks the deck or whatever, has the deck locked up. But yeah, in general, this does kind of have aces written all over it for value. It's hardly ever bluffed. I think the thing to do here is just get away from your absolute hand strength. I'm not saying this is a fold. I wonder if any of you think it is out there. And I wonder if you think I'm insane for even considering that it could be a fold, or whether you think I'm missing something. But let me know your thoughts on this one. I expect it to be divisive and polarizing in the comments. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back next week with more Hand of the Week. If you want to join our Discord server, argue about hands, tell people that they're being results-oriented and delusional, you know what to do. Just spend a bit of money by clicking that top link in the description. I'll see you later. Bye for now.